3D bevels and linked duplicates. What's up? I'm Jonathan and welcome to Maker Tales, where I'm sharing my maker journey to help you go further in yours. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to never miss an opportunity to keep making. We're right at a turning point in your precision 3D Blender learning curve. Now, honestly, I would say that from this point onwards, before this video, you could probably do a good 80% or even 90% of all precision modeling with all the information you've learned so far. However, for those of you that are looking for things such as linked duplicates and beveling, well, I'm sorry to say, but in my own experience, this has been one of the hardest pills for me to swallow about Blender. Okay, we're starting to get really close to being able to create some practical, real-world precision-based models within Blender. Now, for those of you who are used to a CAD-based workflow, I'm about to show two things that are starkly different within CAD and Blender. So for those of you that are just learning Blender, don't worry, this is how Blender works. For those of CAD, this might become a bit of a hard point for you because you're going to see where the real difficulties can lie within Blender. So we've covered duplication before on a very top level. So let's go ahead and do what we've done before, which is select, going Shift D, and we know that we can constrain this on an X or the Y, or we can go Shift Z and then constrain it to a plane. So that there is a hard copy duplication. They're two individual objects. So if I were to go into edit mode, this is an object. If I go into edit mode into this one, this is an object. Next is linked duplication. So let's select this, and to do a linked duplication we go Alt D, and this is just duplicated our object. And the main difference here is whichever object is selected and you go into the edit mode, you'll see that they'll both go into edit mode. However, this object here, if you were to edit it, it would affect the other one as well. I can't select this one and change anything on it because it's not the object I selected to go into edit mode, but this one here is. That's because these are a linked duplicate. Alright, let's then do a couple of times. Now that we know how to create a linked duplicate, let's find out how to unlink this duplicate. So it's one of these more hidden features. I wish it was nice and easy just going right click here and unlink. However, you're going to see that this here deletes the object. Well, it hasn't really deleted it. It's to do with how Blender works with something called object data. So an object in Blender is like a collection of information, and it isn't really an object. It isn't of itself till you set it to be. So let's say that this here, we want this object unlinked. You might think that it's under parenting, but it isn't. It's under relations. And then you want to do is make a single user and object and data. So I hate that this is so deep down. So me personally, what I do is I right click and I assign a shortcut of Alt U. And that there for me stands for unlinking. So now if I go here and go Alt U, you'll see we have make single user. It's going to be an object and object data. Click OK. And you'll see now when we go into edit mode, that's been unlinked. So let's do another hard copy here, because I want to show you something else. And you can set three identical objects to be linked using, you may recognize this link panel before, using Control L from our organization using materials. And what we're going to do is object data, and this now has linked all of these up together, and you'll see that if we click on any of these, it is now linked. So of course we can select one, we can go and use our new shortcut of Alt U, say yes, and that there is this one now unlinked, and the others will be linked. So I want to show you this in action of something quite powerful. So let's say we had another one of these. So let's just do a hard copy duplication. So nice little Shift D. Let's go on the Y. Fantastic. And let's say for some absolutely strange reason, we're wanting these two back faces here to connect to one another. So to do this, let's go ahead and let's put in our 3D cursor with our shift right click. Let's create a little cube here. Fantastic. And now I'm going to do an linked duplicate. So Alt D. I'm going to move this one on the Y over to there. I'm not being really precise about this because this is more just an example. So I'm going to move my cursor back to the world origin there. And now let's go ahead and do a nice mixture of things that we've learned. So we know that these will edit together. You can actually now assign this to be a Boolean add. So control numpad plus, and we're going to make you a minus, control minus. So you can already see we have a joint here. Now this could be anything from washers to screws to whatever else you have going around your object that you want linked. But let's say the brief changed and this now needs to be in a completely different shape. Okay, well that's completely fine because all we have to do now is go into our edit mode, select our face, extrude this into our new shape that we've been told in our brief that this needs to be, and let's extrude this over here as well and scale it down as well, and there we go. Now of course you can see that this right this minute wouldn't really join maybe in the way that we're wanting it to. The object orientation isn't linked here. It's only the object shape. So we can actually grab this object here and go ahead and do a rotation of 180 degrees so that it goes and connects how we're expecting it to connect. So these two would now connect in said fashion. Oops, I've got to not have that set to individual. I've got to have that at median point. Select those. Let's go ahead and rotate this. Let's go 180. Now let's go ahead and use, actually let's not use anything too complicated. Let's just move this around over there. So then you can see how these here would join up. That we now have our lovely little holes individually to our connecting faces using linked objects and the booleans that we learned in our last video. So having just covered the linked duplicates, you can see how it is similar to a CAD-esque workflow, but it really isn't the same thing. But it's still workable. Now, this is one of the hardest pills for me to swallow about Blender currently, which is its beveling. Its beveling is, in my opinion, severely lacking in every aspect. There hasn't been anything that has given me precision, real, true precision bevels that I can really control edge to edge perfectly. Now I'm going to show you everything I know of bevels, and then from there you can make your own decision about it. But let's go ahead and show you the absolute basics. So you know already about an edit mode and the bevel here, or doing the PDT fillet. So what I want to first show you is the modifier. So going over to the modifier shelf, here we can now add a modifier, which is the bevel modifier. So let's go ahead, add this bevel modifier. Let's increase this a little bit and let's give it a few more segments. Now if we get nice and close, you will see that we now have chamfer edges there, and let's go ahead and add a bevel to them. So there we go, they've been beveled, so to speak. Come on. And yes, that can be done, but this is very much coming from the ethos of basically animation, VFX, organic modeling, which is, well, they understand that a hard surface model can't have absolutely infinitely sharp edges like the primitive objects currently have. So they've created this. Now, they have given the ability to be able to affect edges individually using this. And technically this here is a non-destructive workflow, so it's great to be able to use it if it is possible. So let's say we're wanting all these edges right here to be filleted. So let's go into edit mode. And in edit mode, we're going to select all the edges we're wanting to be filleted. And now here, down here on the bottom right, this little triangle is our object data. What we're doing is we're going to create something called a vertex group. And we're going to hit that, click this, and then assign the vertices to this group. So let's go ahead. Let's rename this group now. And now with this vertex group created, let's go out of edit mode. And now within our bevel modifier, so back to the modifier properties, you will see there is a limit method. And what we're wanting is the limit method to be a vertex group. Selecting that, you will see that now we only have this edge being affected. Now you may see that this isn't what would I call consistent beveling, because up here it's tight compared to over there where it's more rounded. So what I like to do is turn off over clamp and also turn off loop slide. You'll see that now makes it a nice consistent bevel. Now we can go ahead and set the offset here. Let's go 0.25 millimeters. Fantastic. And then lastly, let me just show you that the bevel modifier has this thing here of segments, so we can segment how refined this bevel will be. We also have this, which is our profile. Because we're doing precision modeling here, we're going to always have this set to 0.5, but I want to show you that you can go concave here, and you can also have it more rounded in this sense as well. So there you go, just so you get a sense for it. Now here is where you will start to see where I dislike the bevel modifier and the bevel workflow within Blender. If I wanted to go ahead and add bevels along here, you would think I would just go and add the edge into the vertex group. So let's go and do that. Let's select these edges here. And that there is with that selected, we're going to go here and go part A, assign those. The keen-eyed of you will see what's just happened. The main word here that's being used is vertex group. As we know, a vertex are all these little black dots when we're in vertex select. So an edge is a collection of two vertices. Now, because this vertex is selected and that vertex is selected, it has filleted this entire edge as well. So the only way to go about fixing this issue is let's go ahead and undo what we've currently done by adding that into the vertex group. Is by creating another vertex group, and not just one vertex group, but two other vertex groups. Now let me show you why. Let's go ahead, let's add a vertex group. Let's call this part 2, and let's go and assign that edge into here. Let's go back into our object mode. Let's go into our modifier shelf, and we already have one bevel modifier affecting this edge. So let's go and create another bevel modifier. Now this bevel modifier, we're going to set it to be vertex group of only part 2. And now when we go ahead and increase this offset, you will see that it is beveling everything once again. So the workaround, once again, it's a workaround to another workaround. Let's delete that bevel. Let's go back into edit mode. Let's go to this part 2, remove that. And what we're going to do is select the two opposite edges, add and assign those to part 2. Let's add another vertex group, call that part 3. And let's assign the other two edges to that one there. And now, I'm pretty sure you've guessed it, we're going to go into the modifier shelf, we're going to create a bevel modifier, we're going to set a vertex group, set that one to part 2, let's give that 5 segments and turn off clamping and off loop, and you'll see that we're getting finally the effect that we're wanting, 0.25. Let's go and create yet another bevel, assign that vertex group and set that to part 3, turn off those 5 segments and offset of 0.25. Now, on top of that, we've got to make sure that we reorder these in a fashion that won't give us crazy problems. Let me just move that like that so you get to see what's going on here. So we've got our main bevel, bevel 1 and bevel 2. So if we put this bevel all the way down, you can see that we're getting some pretty crazy clamping going on there. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the Bevel Modifier. Having said that, me personally, the way that I use bevels is I use them destructively, in the sense that once I have a roughed out shape like this, I would go ahead and I would do a hard copy, move this out, rename it, hide it, chuck it into a collection of backup, and now I start doing my beveling. If there's a point that I know I've done all my beveling that I'm happy with, then I will do another save at that point. Now, something that some of you might be wondering then is, well, okay, Jonathan, you do it like that. So you go bevel, you create your bevel, and then how do you go about undoing a bevel? Well, that is a very good question. So I'm going to go and do my bevel on this edge over here, because I think this is be the easiest way to explain it. This doesn't work for all bevels. Keep that in mind. So if we go ahead and add this bevel here, the way I go about undoing a bevel is I'm going to show you a new selection technique here. So we have one edge selected, and then if you hit C, you get something called the circle selection. And if you use the scroll wheel, you can increase the selection area. You can't move in this mode, but it lets you select a lot of things very quickly. And to deselect, you use the middle scroll wheel button to deselect, so the middle click. So let's select all these, right click, and now we have this first edge set as the active object. Now this is important because we're going to change this pivot point to be the active element, and the reason why is now when we do a scale operation, it's scaling from that point, and now I'm going to constrain this to the X, which lets me pull all this to the 0 of the X. So I'm going to type in 0, hit enter, and now from here I'm going to deselect this edge, and I'm going to deselect that edge over there. Then I'm going to hit X and dissolve the edges that we don't need. As you can see, that is a real pain, and it's quite frankly the main pain point that I have within Blender. There is a small caveat here, which is there is a fantastic add-on called Mesh Machine. The only thing is, it's pricey, very pricey. So I don't think it's fair for anybody who's wanting to learn Blender to have to do and pay something like that. But as you can see right here within the first video, he is just adding and taking away fillets and bevels like they're no tomorrow. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't know how well it works with precision-based modeling, but it's something to keep in mind, even if it's just for the sake of removing the fillets that you put in place. Well done for getting through that. especially for those who are used to a much more parametric and fluid workflow. Now, of course, all of this might change in the future. I'll get to update this video with a new, be it a bevel add-on, be it a new library add-on. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about Blender. You never know what's coming next. And quite frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if all this gets fixed up pretty quickly. And we're very close to setting a really solid foundation for precision modeling in Blender. Speaking of a very solid foundation, my lovely patrons, you guys are creating something amazing to let me be able to create more videos for you all. And if you think I'm worthy of your support, I would love to see you there too. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, keep making, and let the quest continue.